Welcome to a Potato Blight special of the owningandallotment.com allotment diary. Now, potato blight is a major problem for anyone that owns an allotment, and it's incredibly destructive. You can lose your whole crop of potatoes through potato blight. Now, potato blight is a fungus infection, and it travels as spores. So you could have your potatoes at home, at the allotment, wherever, and what you can find is your potatoes could get blight. It can blow in on the wind from anywhere and infect your plant. So it is a serious problem, and there isn't a massive amount you can do to protect from it. Now, things you can do to protect yourself from blight includes plant your potatoes at a reasonable distance so there's plenty of air circulation between the plants. That will stop them getting wet, and it will stop the moist conditions in which a fungal infection such as blight can thrive. You can also buy blight resistant varieties of potatoes, which these ones here in front of you are. But even blight resistant varieties are not going to resist the blight completely. They can still have a chance of being infected. Now, because blight is really bad in damp conditions, if you water your potatoes over the top, so if you're watering them on the top on the leaves, that is going to encourage blight more than if you water them down here at the base. So if you take the rose adapter off your watering can and you put the watering can nozzle towards the base of your plants and water, then you can have less of a chance of encouraging blight on your plot, because unfortunately once you get it, it's very, very hard to get rid of it. What you should do is you should never ever compost any potato materials, realistically speaking. Even if they don't have blight, it's not worth the risk of there's blight there and it's not really come up and shown its face. Trouble is once you've got blight, if you get blight on your potatoes and you then compost it, and there's our compost bins over there, if you then compost it, what's going to happen is the fungus is going to stay in your compost. The next year you're going to spread that compost over your plot, you're going to use it, and then you're going to be spreading potato fungus or the blight all over the place, which obviously is going to be a pretty major problem for you. So what you need to do is you need to take them all home and you need to destroy them. And you can see here what I've done is, let me show you what you do. Once you get blight, you can pick off the affected leaves. Now, once you've picked off the affected leaves, you need to dispose of them, and you can see here I've got some bags. These are full of potato materials. Now, I started just by picking leaves off, but then I noticed the blight unfortunately had spread and was looking an awful lot worse. So what I've done, as you can see from this bare spot here, is I've actually cut the tops off the potatoes. So if we come over here you are, look. You can see here this is a bit soggy actually. I'm not quite sure why that's soggy. I'm not sure why that's wet there. But you can see I've cut the tops off. There's a couple of bits of leaves left, so let's just pull those off. I've cut all the tops off. There's another one that's taken the tops off. There's another one that's just, in fact, it all looks a bit damp wherever I've taken the tops off, which is a bit peculiar. So I've taken all the tops off, and that has basically stopped the fungus from spreading. So what I'll do now is I'll leave these in the ground until I want to lift them, and once I start lifting them, then obviously I can start using them. These are first earlies and they are ready. I'll dig a handful up in a minute just to show you what they look like, but they are ready, and they are good to go. So what you need to do is you just take the tops off, and then go and put all the rubbish in the bag and take it home and get rid of it. If you can burn stuff on your allotment, then burn it. Otherwise, take it home and either take it to the tip household waste site, or something like if you've got a municipal recycling scheme, so they'll come to your house and collect garden waste, then get your local council to collect and put it in that bin. Their compost tends to be a lot hotter than something you can use at home, so it can destroy the fungus. But certainly here, get it off your plot ASAP, because it is going to cause some fairly serious problems for you. Now, how do you spot potato blight? Let's just have a look here for a minute. Look at this. You can see in there, you see those leaves have gone brown and they're spotting. That's signs of potato blight. The leaves start to yellow, you get brown spots, and then they wilt and die like that. And you can see here again, you can see it coming up. You can see it there on the potatoes. So that's pretty bad news, to be honest. Once it comes, there's not a massive amount you can do about it. You have to remove the leaves. Now, you can spray against potato blight. However, the downside of that is it is pretty expensive, but it can work. You're not 100% guaranteed for protection, and I know some people on our allotments have sprayed, and they've had probably an extra week or so without an infection, but I think you've got to keep spraying. And unfortunately, they are finding blight on their potatoes, even though they are spraying them. So it is a fairly major problem. And you can see here, there's a leaf there that's starting to brown. I don't know whether that's blight or perhaps it's got water on and it's burnt. I don't know, but we'll just pinch it off and get rid of it just to be on the safe side, because you cannot risk this getting through your potatoes. However, these ones here, let's just look there, you can see they're flowering, so these are probably ready as well. So to be really honest with you, if these do get blight, I could just lop the tops off and they'll be ready to rock and roll. But potato blight is a pretty major problem with all allotment owners, and it can infect other plants, particularly tomatoes. So I find that when I grow tomatoes at the allotment, they always get blight, so I never grow them here anymore. I grow them all at home, and I've got quite large walls and everything else around my house, so it does actually stop the wind coming in, and I found that growing them at home, I don't really have a problem. Fingers crossed that that remains the same, so we'll see anyway. So even though these potatoes over here are blight resistant, they're still showing some signs of it. Now you have to remember that they're blight resistant, they're not necessarily immune, so you could still get the blight. And like I said, unfortunately it does appear that there are some traces on here. So what I will do is I will go through these potatoes and I will pull off anything that I can see that is infected. It's not pleasant, the blight, and it's very disheartening, to be really honest with you. It's very, very difficult to get rid of, and unfortunately once it's in the soil, it's going to keep coming back. Now when it hits is going to depend on where you are. Where we are, not too far north of Birmingham, it tends to be middle to the end of June that we get affected. So we know that if we get our potatoes in early, oops, just get some weeds out from in there, there's something. So we know that if we get our potatoes in early, then typically you can get rid of, they'll be ready before the blight hits. The problem is when you're late planting your potatoes, that's when you have the problem, because obviously you plant your potatoes late, the blight hits when they're still maturing, you've got a problem because the potatoes aren't ready to dig. Now let's just go and get a trowel, and we'll have a quick look at some of the potatoes over there. Though let me just show you some more that have got blight. Actually, whilst we remember, just go across here, and you can see here again, look, more signs of blight. Particularly, look, let's just get this over here for you to see. I don't know if you can see that in the sunlight. The brown on the stem there is starting to go brown. The leaves are curling and dying, which is an indication of blight. And unfortunately, it's hitting in here quite hard. Again, look, if I zoom in there, you can see it there. The blight's in there as well. It's a real shame. It hits us all, but unfortunately it's one of those things that, unfortunately, as an allotment owner, you've just got to get over it, because it's going to happen, and you're going to have problems with it. It's if it does happen, as long as you've got your potatoes in early, you're going to be okay, because you can typically you're going to be able to get your potatoes out. Now these ones here I planted quite late on, to be really honest with you, but they've matured pretty well. Let's just have a quick dig down. Oh, that straight away. Oops. Never mind. Sorry, I'm being attacked by flies. Now there's a good one. You can see reasonable size. And these are new potatoes. Bizarrely enough, my new potatoes have come out really, really big for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but I've got some more in here. Let me just pause the video and let me go and get a spade, and I'll get some up for you. Okay, so here's a bunch of potatoes. This is just off one plant. It's a reasonable crop. There's nothing to write home about, and some of them are a pretty good size. But you'll notice that they're splitting in some of them. In others, you can see there. See the holes in them? There's a rut down the side, and then there's a hole in the middle there. So you can just see that. Again, you can see this one. Similar thing. It's all eaten out. Now, in fact, I think, yeah. So there's lots of rotten bits in that one. Now, going into a bit of detail about planting potatoes now. Let me just get out of the way of the soil. You can see in the soil lumps of manure. There's manure in it. Now, what I did with this plot is I was running quite late, and I dug the manure in fairly late on in the year. And to be really honest, I don't think it was properly rotted, unfortunately. Now, I don't think it had a good year, because on the other plot I got an awful lot of weeds out of it from where I spread the manure. But here I didn't get so many weeds, but I did get these problems with the potatoes. Now, what I think's happened is that the manure's gone in too late, and it hasn't broken down well enough. And what it's done is it's encouraged wireworms and slugs, which have come in and they've chewed on my potatoes. So the end result has been potatoes, these potatoes with holes in them, which it's a crying shame. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that happens, and at the end of the day, you just have to get over it, and basically just cut round it. The rest of it's perfectly usable. All I do is take them home. Those new potatoes, there's a slight bit of scab on them as well, which I think is possibly down to the manure in the soil. So, lesson learnt for next year, and perhaps it could be useful for you as well, is dig the manure in over the winter, leave it to rot down well before spring, turn the bed, and then put your potatoes in. And I think, to be really honest with you, that's the best way you can do it. And as I said, considering I was quite late planting those of you who have been watching these videos will know exactly when I planted them. It was only a couple of months ago, so it wasn't that long ago. And I've got that roughly that amount per plant. Now, those are the new potatoes. I haven't tried lifting any of the main crop potatoes yet, so I'm curious to see whether they have done as well as these. But I'm going to resist the temptation of lifting them for at least another couple of weeks, though if they do get hit by the blight, I'm going to take them down and look at them a lot better. But basically, blight is a problem, and it could strike. Even if it's never been on your allotments before, you could still get it. So I just urge you just to be on the lookout for it, check your potatoes, and just make sure that you don't compost anything that might be diseased, because unfortunately doing so is going to just spread it all over your plot the next year.